Welcome to BizTech's Personal Finance Show. Now, today our show is really a 101 on cryptocurrency. And here to give us insights is Tang, Country Manager of Luno Malaysia. Now, thanks for coming on the show, Aaron.
Hi, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Now, Aaron, let's start by you giving us an overview of Luno and your history.
Right. Luno is the first digital asset exchange in Malaysia. We were given approval to operate in Malaysia in October 2019. And since then, we have also grown to become the largest and most established one in Malaysia. When I say digital asset exchange, it means we are a platform where people can buy, sell, store, and learn about cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum in a safe and easy manner.
Okay, and there are also two other available platforms who are licensed in Malaysia, right? And that's
Correct.
Securities Technologies and Tokenize.
That's correct.
And your regulatory framework is basically Securities Commission?
Yes, we are under the SC, which looks at anything investing in Malaysia.
Okay, now, what is the importance of really using a regulated platform such as Luno?
I think using a regulated platform is very useful, especially for people who are new to the space, because in such a, I guess you can call it a nascent industry like Bitcoin, crypto, it is something so new that there's still a lot of misinformation, there's still a lot of misunderstanding about the technology. Unfortunately, there are scammers, there are people who aren't, with the best intentions that are in the space. So I think the use of a regulated platform is really for investor protection. You're trying to protect yourself from all these unwanted elements. And I think that's really the best way to start.
Okay, now break it down for us. How are cryptocurrencies created, mined, and traded? Because this is like a black art for most people. It seems like something so far away.
Right. I think the easiest way to think about it is we have to remember that cryptocurrencies are actually digital code. They are basically computer code and they live on the internet. Yeah. So cryptocurrencies are completely digital. If you think about traditional assets like gold or a painting, these are things that you can touch and feel. And I think sometimes when it comes to cryptocurrencies, it gets a little bit misunderstood because everything is completely digital. But that's the first starting point. We must realize that everything in crypto is completely digital. Now, the second part of how cryptocurrencies are created is a term which is called mining. Okay. And mining often trips people up as well because people think of the image of, you're going to the mountain with picks and shovels and you're trying to get something out of the ground, right? But mining in the cryptocurrency sense is actually just the process of, it's the process of people actually sharing their computer power with the cryptocurrency network. Yeah. So for example, let's take example Bitcoin. For example, anyone can mine Bitcoin, which means they're actually using their own computer power to help the Bitcoin program or Bitcoin network help to process transactions. And in that process, because you are renting your computer or you're sharing your computer power, you are getting paid with Bitcoin, some small amount of Bitcoin. And that is actually the process of creation of Bitcoin. Now, again, I think for most people, we don't actually need to get into the technical details because, much like the internet, you don't need to know all the small little nooks and crannies of how it works to actually use it. You can use it without actually knowing so deeply.
And you're right, Aaron, because what I wanted to do is give context to the audience in terms of, okay, so how does this mythical thing get created? But then can you explain to us, Aaron, what is the difference then between cryptocurrencies and fiat currencies?
So when we talk about fiat currencies, these are currencies that are issued by governments. Yeah. The easiest way to think of fiat currency in Malaysia is, of course, Malaysia ringgit. If you talk about US, then it's the US dollar. And if you talk about UK or Europe, then it's the euro and the pound. Yeah. So those are what we call fiat currencies. When we talk about cryptocurrencies are, I like to call them digital assets because they are completely digital and they live 100% online. And they are what we call assets that people who are online, who accept that they have value and send and receive and trade with each other. So the difference is one lives completely online and is often created by companies or people or groups of people who are very interested to create new technology. That's cryptocurrency. Whereas fiat currency is something that governments have been issuing for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
And so one of the big things is actually the use case. That means what you correctly pointed out is you've got to have parties that are willing to accept this as a transaction. Could you give us some examples of some other cryptocurrencies and some of their use cases?
Right. The easiest one is, of course, Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has been around the longest. And although I would say the vast majority of use of cryptocurrency today is in the use of investment, yeah? People are buying crypto, people are trading crypto. You are starting to see some merchants around the world who are starting to accept Bitcoin as payment, yeah?
Well, the big example is Tesla, of course. You can buy a Tesla with your Bitcoin.
100%, yes. That is Tesla. Tesla starting to accept Bitcoin. But you're also starting to see huge giants like Visa and MasterCard who are talking about, okay, we're going to start accepting cryptocurrencies for payment as well. Now, this is still a work in progress, right? We're still waiting to see what exactly turns out. But it's very interesting things happening. When we speak about other cryptocurrencies, there are thousands of cryptocurrencies that exist today. Some of the more famous ones are things like Ethereum, XRP, and also Litecoin. So I'm just going to give very brief use cases for these kind of things. Ethereum is very interesting because it is a crypto that not only you can use it as an asset to send and receive with your friends or people, you can actually build a lot of smart computing programs using Ethereum. Yeah. So this again sounds like very philosophical computer science stuff, but I'll give you an example. Yeah. There's something that's called decentralized finance today in the world of Ethereum. And using Ethereum, you would actually be able to do some really cool functions. For example, I decide that I want to use my Ethereum to loan to other people on the internet. I want to loan it out and I want to gain interest. Now you can do all that using very special and smart platforms available on the internet today. You don't have to sign any forms. You don't have to walk into any branches and meet with like 5 offices. You can immediately set up a contract for you to loan money and gain interest. And on the other side, the guy will be able to get a loan. So that's an example of how powerful Ethereum can be.
Okay, and what sort of cryptocurrencies can I trade on Luno?
In Luno, Malaysia, there are 4 approved cryptocurrencies. So that's Bitcoin, Ethereum, which we've already spoken about, and then that's XRP. A lot of people call XRP as Ripple because they're not exactly the same thing, but that's the street name. And then the last one is Litecoin. So there are 4.
And in a Malaysian context, what does your customer base look like?
So in Malaysia, we have more than 400,000 people now on Luno Malaysia. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's quickly approaching 500,000.
And what is the demographic in terms of people who are trading on your platform?
So we're still seeing, I guess without much surprise, we're still seeing 80% men, 20% women. Hopefully we'll get that up further. We do want to encourage more women investors. The age groups also, I guess no surprise, the large majority of customers are the millennials and also the generation after the millennials, which I think you call Gen Z, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of activity though, it's very interesting because it's not so much the younger millennials who are trading or transacting a lot. It's actually the older millennials and the younger Gen X. So the people who are like 30 to 40 years old, that is the highest transaction activity.
Ah, interesting. Okay, 30 to 40 years old is the highest transaction activity.
Yes.
Now, have you seen since the pandemic, which is a global phenomenon, a fundamental shift in attitudes towards investing in cryptocurrency? Have you seen that take off in Malaysia as well?
I think we've seen, I think we've followed the trend of investing in digital platforms, right? And this is not limited to crypto. It could be your stockbroking platforms that are now online. It could be your robo advisory platforms, which are now completely online as well. I think we have gone together in this digital wave. I wouldn't say that the pandemic has more or less made people move towards crypto. I would say it has made people move towards digital services, and crypto is a major part of that.
Now, one of the things that's happened also is the fact in the last 12 months, institutional investors have really piled on to Bitcoin in particular, but also other cryptos. What do you think the key reasons for that have been?
The actual popular reason stated by all these institutions, whether it's Tesla, MicroStrategy, or Square, is that they believe in a world of, I guess you can call it loose monetary policy. There are concerns that cash may not be your best store of value anymore, or even if it is still a store of value, inflation worries. So all these companies, I believe, they believe that Bitcoin is a better store of value in the long term, and that's why they're starting to pile into it.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about store of value again. Now, one of the reasons Bitcoin, as opposed to other cryptocurrencies as an alternative store of value to gold, is the fact that, correct me if I'm wrong, you're only restricted to 21 million Bitcoins that can be mined. Is that correct?
That's correct. 21 million lifetime supply.
Yeah. So essentially, then there is a fixed amount, and that is the reason for that. Essentially, it's a demand and supply equation.
Correct.
Now, are cryptocurrencies too risky for the average investor? Because there's significant amount of volatility. So if you, for example, a 55-year-old, and then one day you see your Bitcoin at 60, the next day it's at 45,000, that's a lot of volatility.
Yeah, I think we have to be very cognizant of the fact that it's really, really still early in cryptocurrencies. And there's a saying that I really admire, and it is that volatility is the price you pay for performance, right? Because volatility can work both ways. And if you want those, I don't know, if you want those big gains of say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50%, or maybe even higher, then usually in the investing world, that tends to come with higher volatility, higher risk that there's fluctuation as well. Now, as to whether Bitcoin crypto is too risky for the average investor, I would say there are ways to manage that risk. And one of the ways to manage that risk is, of course, to use something called portfolio allocation, or to just start or to allocate a small percent of your portfolio. So for some people that's 1%, some people that's 3%, some people say 5%. I think everyone has to evaluate their own portfolio and their own risk appetite. Obviously, we never ask anyone to silang and put 100% of their stuff into any asset class. So I think every investor needs to keep that in mind.
I think that's a very good point, because from a portfolio allocation strategy, it also depends on your age and your risk appetite. So, I wouldn't recommend, I don't think anybody would recommend a 50-year-old putting 90% of their assets on cryptocurrency. Probably 5 to 10, if you have an appetite for risk, because at 50 years old, you don't have time for, for your investment to be wiped out, because you have no time to recover from it. So I think that's and I think that's a key thing. I think age has something to do with that as well. But do you personally view cryptos as more of a store of value or a tradable asset?
So personally, I'm a long-term investor myself.
Okay.
I've had itchy hands in the past, right? I thought that, okay, I'm going to be like the next big trader, and it hasn't worked out for me that way. I'm a big long-term investor. So I view cryptocurrencies as, number one, a hedge against inflation. And I view it as a store of value. I know some people trade it, and that's absolutely fine because everyone has their own strategy. But for me, I'm really a long-term investor.
Okay, so Aaron, what percentage of our portfolio is in cryptocurrency?
um, I I viewed it as a percentage of net worth. So I've never invested more than 10% of my net worth in cryptocurrency. Now I'm just gonna say it again that this is my own personal strategy.
Correct, absolutely.
Everyone has their own
And
strategy.
how old are you, Aaron? Aaron, sorry.
I am 37 this year. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So you're just within your maximum paid demographic. But so Aaron, one of the key things is, what are you looking at from a macro view? The key cryptocurrency market trends in 2021.
I think we're seeing more and more institutions coming into it, right? It started, I think last year, MicroStrategy was the big news. And then of course the CEO of MicroStrategy started like evangelizing and getting other people in.
That's
then
right.
Then you start to see more and more like tech visionaries. It always starts with the tech guys, right? Because crypto is
early adopter, always.
And crypto is I mean, it's more or less computer code, right? We said from the start, it's computer code. So the tech guys will get it first. But, you know, I read last week that we are even starting to see, I think there's a New Zealand pension fund provider or one of the funds in that people can invest their pension funds in. Even one of them has already started investing, I think 5% in Bitcoin. So we're starting to just see this mass institutional interest coming in. And I think it may take some time before maybe a huge government like, you know, invest in crypto, but I wouldn't say that it's not possible. It might happen, right? That's the first thing. So more institutions. The second thing is we hear a lot of rumors and applications of Bitcoin ETFs, yeah? So exchange traded funds, which would, I think, open the floodgates to a lot more investors who want investment in Bitcoin, but they don't want to get their hands like, you know, they don't want to get into all the hassle of like, oh, how do I store my keys? You know, how do I, you know, send, you know, how do I log in? So ETFs will allow mass adoption. And sort of trivia to note is that Bitcoin ETFs actually exist already, but they exist in Canada. I think there's 3 Bitcoin ETFs in Canada already.
Okay.
But everyone's kind of waiting on the US ones because, you know, US is the big thing lah.
Correct. But you see what, okay, now let's talk about the flip side of the equation. One of the key market trends is regulators are looking at it, and there's whispers around that in some countries, Bitcoin may be banned and cryptocurrencies may be banned. That's obviously hanging, that's a cloud that's hanging across the entire cryptocurrency market, because essentially if a major country bans Bitcoin, that will have a ripple effect across the industry. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, we've seen governments actually try to ban Bitcoin. And most notably, you'll see that in India, the government, well, it's been a bit of back and forth between the courts and the parliament and things. But you'll see that even in India, the percentage of people who are so interested to use Bitcoin, to own Bitcoin, the interest there is so high. So I do think that governments, if they are sort of being practical and progressive, they will realize that it is a technology that's here to stay, and they're not going to outright ban it. Rather, I think the practical approach is they're going to put some regulations around it. Now, we've seen success of this happening in Malaysia when the SC, BNM, they worked together, they put some regulations around it. Then we saw regulated crypto exchanges come up. I think the industry is growing very well. The ecosystem is healthy. And we are starting to see people move away from those unregulated platforms. So I think there is a very nice balance that can be achieved. And I hope the governments of the world will continue working well here.
Now, so Aaron, now to a different perspective. Let's say our audience, I want to start my cryptocurrency journey. What advice would you give beginners?
Yeah, the first one is to work with a regulated platform. And some of the reasons we've already covered, because it's safer, it's easier. You know that you're not buying Bitcoin from like a drug trafficker from a street corner or something like that, right? So that would be the first one, use a regulated platform. Secondly, I would say start with an amount you're willing to experiment and learn with. So in Malaysia, you can start from as low as 3 ringgit, right? That's less than a cup of nice coffee today.
Yeah.
So you don't have to start with like 1,000 ringgit, put your life savings. No, start with, say, a small amount you're willing, and then start learning from there, right? There's tons of educational material, YouTube, videos, articles, papers, even like professional institutes like CFA institutes are coming out with papers, research papers on Bitcoin as an investment. So I think there's so much for you to learn and grow, but it starts with having a little bit of skin in the game. Because if you look at it from far distance, right, you're not really going to learn as much as if you have maybe that 5 ringgit or 10 ringgit in.
Correct, absolutely. Now, what action do I have to take if I want to start trading?
So you would need to sign up for an account. And it's really a very easy sign up. It's very similar to a sign up for, say, an e-wallet, right? So you need to go to the website, put in your email address, and then you would need to provide a picture of your MyCard, answer a few questions about your address, your date of birth. And then once your identity is verified, you would just need to top up your account with using a bank transfer or even FPX, FPX transfer in Malaysia. So once your Ringgit Malaysia funds are in your wallet, then you can just click buy, and it's as simple as that.
Okay, fantastic. Aaron, it's been a pleasure having you on the BizTech's Personal Finance Show.
Thank you so much, Brian. It's been real good.
We've been speaking to Aaron Tang, Country Manager of Luno Malaysia, on BizTech's Personal Finance Show. Now, this video will be on our Facebook and LinkedIn sites, as well as our website, www.biztech.asia. Please subscribe and like our LinkedIn and Facebook pages.